On the first days of 1815, British guns pounded American earthworks in Louisiana's swampy bayous. Thousands of redcoats advanced against the outnumbered defenders. Freshly victorious over Napoleon, the British were ready to project their full might on the young republic. But in just 30 minutes, hundreds of redcoats lay dead. It was a decisive victory for the Americans, yet the battle seemed like pointless bloodshed. It did not affect the course of the war at all. A peace treaty was already signed in Ghent, dominated by two words: status quo. The War of 1812 went down in history as a war that nobody wanted. Neither the United States nor the United Kingdom achieved its strategic goals or gained any territory. Still, the United States, United Kingdom and even Canada all came out ahead after the conflict ended. And this begs the question, who really won the War of 1812? By James Madison's second term as president, Americans had a long list of grievances against the United Kingdom, which had constantly undermined the United States through its orders in council. Britain forbade all neutral countries from trading with France. Royal Navy vessels even forcibly conscripted American sailors into British service to fill up manpower reserves in the fight against Napoleon. This policy, known as Impressment, greatly angered the American population. Many Americans also felt that sovereignty and independence were at stake. Britain supported several American Indian tribes and confederations, most notably Tecumseh's Confederation, and tried to create a native buffer state to thwart American expansion. Through traders in Canada, Britain supplied the tribes with weapons and ammunition that enabled them to raid throughout the American frontier. In addition to the grievances, many in the southern and western US sought to annex some, if not all, of Canada, although this was a controversial topic. In the summer of 1812, the long list of complaints motivated Madison to ask Congress to declare war. Ironically, Britain had already ordered the suspension of the orders in council, which had led to so many American grievances, but the news had not yet reached US soil by the time war was declared. At first, it seemed like the British faced overwhelming odds. Napoleon still dominated Europe, and now an overstretched, financially burdened Britain was forced to open another faraway front. Its territories were threatened by an ambitious republic with a far larger population than British North America. Fortunately for the Crown, the American armies weren't ready to defeat Britain in Canada. American forces were underprepared and led by elderly, cautious leaders. Madison was a shy scholar with little knowledge of warfare. His Secretary of War, William Eustis, obtained the position through political connections, not skill. Instead of a quick conquest of Canada, the war escalated to include all of eastern North America. Britain and American Indian allies fought the Americans in the Northwest, across the Great Lakes and in the Deep South. Famously, they even captured Washington, D.C., and burned down the White House in 1814. In that particular battle, they failed to take their main goal, Baltimore. It was that battle that inspired Francis Scott Key to write the Star-Spangled Banner. Many American offensives failed, but the nation did succeed defensively, like at Lake Erie and New Orleans. The war created a new sense of identity, patriotism and unity, kick-started economic and military reform, and reshaped the political landscape. Overall, the War of 1812 did not create a military victory, but it did produce a number of cultural, economic and geopolitical victories. In the case of the United States, they achieved a defensive victory. The Madison administration wanted to assert American independence from the United Kingdom and guarantee its rights to international law as a sovereign nation. Prominent politicians from John C. Calhoun to Henry Clay all agreed that making American trade subject to the will of the British Crown essentially meant reinstating the colonial system. The war was mostly a bluff to force policy concessions from Britain. If the war is seen as a bluff to change British policy, a US defensive victory becomes more meaningful. The British Empire couldn't maintain harmful policies that America would simply have to comply with. Battles at Lake Champlain, Fort McHenry and New Orleans proved that the British could not force the Americans into pro-British compliance. After the War of 1812, the United States emerged as a far more unified nation. In the midst of the 18th century, the American colonies faced numerous challenges. The British, with their well-equipped and disciplined forces, secured several significant victories. The tide seemed to favor the crown, and the colonies were under immense pressure. Yet, amidst these struggles, a sense of resilience began to grow among the American people. As the 18th century drew to a close, the United States began to witness profound cultural and political shifts. The ideals of liberty and democracy started to take root, influencing every aspect of society. These changes were not just political, they were deeply cultural, reshaping the identity of a young nation. The echoes of these transformations would resonate for centuries to come. Throughout history, nations have often found themselves at crossroads, where the need for military and economic reforms becomes undeniable. These reforms, although challenging, pave the way for a more resilient and prosperous future. By examining the past, we can understand the intricate balance between military strength and economic stability. From the vantage point of the United Kingdom, the world has always been a complex tapestry of alliances and rivalries. The British perspective, shaped by centuries of maritime dominance and colonial expansion, offers a unique lens through which to view global events. Understanding this perspective is crucial to grasping the broader narrative of international relations. Canada, a land of vast wilderness and diverse cultures. The story of Canada's national origin is not just a tale of confederation, but a rich tapestry woven from the threads of indigenous heritage, European exploration, and the quest for a distinct identity. This myth, while not without its complexities, forms the backbone of Canada's national consciousness. In the end, the question remains, who really won? History is seldom a simple tale of victors and vanquished. The true measure of victory often lies in the enduring legacies and the lessons learned. By delving into the past, we can uncover the nuanced realities that shape our present and future.